How you doing, sir?
Okay, just fine. Thank you. Everything's well with you?
It is. Everything's wonderful. So as we're getting started and we're talking about today's topic, what I wanted to talk about was the Precondition Man. So we want to get into it. But before I do that, I wanted to also make mention several people from the age of 14 to 90 have commented about how much they love the broadcasters and they love what's being shared with them. And some people say they go to sleep listening to what it is that we're talking about. So I just want to let you know, because you don't hear that enough. And I just want you to know that people are listening and they're appreciating what it is that they're getting from these talks.
Fantastic. That's exactly the idea, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's what I tell them. That's our goal. Keep it simple and get the message out there. So absolutely.
And you know, it's funny, but it's hard to believe, but right before you called, somebody, the lady called, and she was telling me about a broadcast that was on television. Actually, she admitted it was none of her business. That news you need to know. If it's something that happened on the other coast, why are you sitting there worrying about it? Or what are you going to do? You know, are you going to do something about it? If you're not, then it's not news you need to know. I said that because I get so many calls, people worrying about things that are happening way away from them. And worrying about it is only bringing about it more, isn't it?
It is. And I like that you said news that you need to know. What's relevant to you, correct?
Yes, that's it. Because when I began examining myself, I found that, you know, I was wasting so much time just thinking about things that were really none of my business. And when you start looking for it, you find a lot more than you expect.
It's very true. And, you know, we may laugh about that, but if you start looking for monsters, you're going to see a monster behind every tree and every corner. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you see, the thing of it is that they only got there because you made them up. See, that's what they don't understand. They're making up their own monsters. God gave them, choose this day. If that's what you choose to think about, well, good luck with that. Wouldn't you say?
I would. So what do you say to the person that says, well, Mr. Lindell, don't I need to know about relevant news globally, whatever? Don't I need to be informed? What would you say to that person?
Let me tell you this. They're going to inform you one way or another if it's an emergency. Even if they have to drive up and down the street with a loudspeaker. So, I mean, you'll find, or a neighbor will knock on your door or something. You'll get a phone call from your daughter somewhere. No, you'll know if you need to know, because bad news travels fast.
Much faster than good news, that's for sure. And it's true, whether it be family members or whatever. Sometimes I may be focused on completing some work or whatever, and then somebody will say, well, did you hear about such and such? And I'll say no. And so, of course, they'll begin to inform me. So that I did not know, all of a sudden, I'm made aware of it. The truth of the matter is some of those things I don't want to know. You know, even after they tell me, my spirit is so grieved, you know, about the incident in question that I'm like, I wish they had not told me. And it's not to say that I don't want to be concerned with the issues that are going on in the world. Some things I just don't need in my spirit. Would you agree?
That's it. And they usually, if there's something important, they usually tell you that in the first 5 minutes and you can shut it off. Yeah, the rest of the time they're going to be commenting about it, you know. And like I said, if it's none of your business, see, that was a big point in my life. I was paying attention to what was none of my business. And I was suffering the consequences of it, and I was denying that I had anything to do with it. And that's exactly what everybody does. They deny their own harvest. But it's theirs, and it's going to operate in your world because you're operating one power. He told you, choose this day. Well, that was God giving you permission to choose this day. And you're actually doing so, whether you're aware you're doing so or not, because you're always thinking ahead of your evidence. And what are you doing thinking ahead of your evidence? You're creating your future. Because sooner or later, every word must be taken account for. Every word. And so you're in the act of dreaming all the time. Unless you're awake. But if you're having problems or you're not enjoying life, then you're not awake. You're not awake. You're asleep. We're all asleep in varying degrees of intensity and intent. But you are in the act of awakening. But you can move it along a little, don't you think?
I do. You know, you made me think about a young lady that I was consulting with recently. She's 14 years old, and she's got these dreams and so forth. And she says, you know, Coach, how do I begin living that life? How do I begin to obtain? I said, live it now. I said, become that person now. Begin living out from the mindset of that person. And I was amazed at the age of 14, the books that she was reading, because many adults are not reading those books for personal growth and so forth. But the wonderful thing is she's already understanding at her age that I need to begin to live out now in my imagination who it is that I want to be. Do you agree?
Do you know something? I do agree, and I'll tell you why. Because I know of young people who have heard me that even I was surprised at how quickly they absorbed what was being said. I mean, it was amazing because, I mean, it took me years to get what I wanted to experience. It took me years just to calm down enough, to sit still long enough to actually hear the answers to the questions I had to ask. And that's what you're told to do. Sit in the silence, because that's where the magic is. That's where your prayers are answered. And you may not be aware of it, but you are praying ceaselessly with every word, because it must be accounted for, and you'll experience it. So you're setting yourself up or you're setting yourself free. Just make sure how you're using your inner conversations, because that's the talking ahead of your evidence, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, as you were just speaking, I thought to myself, man, I wish at 14 that I knew this information. Can you imagine how much further ahead she's going to be along than most of us?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They're our future.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's it. If we lose them, we lose it all.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, come on, it's with them. Just like it's with the ones that are the dummies. It's with them, but they have to recognize it. And you can help them recognize it if they hear it. And that's all that's all we're doing. We're just letting them hear what we heard and eventually operated from long enough to get the idea that you're on the road to recovery. And you are. So look at it as that's what you're doing, not failing, not having problems at all. And you say, well, but that's what is happening. Yes, it is, but you keep feeding it. You keep feeding it, and as long as you feed it, it's yours. Wouldn't you say?
I would. And now you made me think about another young man. He was struggling with some challenges in his life, health problems. And he had given me this whole list of problems that he was having. He said, now, how can I begin changing it? I said, you got to start by changing your conversation. I said, this conversation, we're talking about the preconditioned man. I said, you've taken on conversations that you've had up until these last 20-something years. I said, you got to start with changing your conversation and begin changing your life. I said, you have to see the man that you want to be, not the man that you have been. Would you agree?
Yes. Yes. In other words, the fact that he's asking, that's a start. Don't stop. That's a start. You're asking. You're in that mood right there, that mindset right there. When you're asking for the help to know, because that's who we're looking for, people who want to know first person. Everybody has hearsay, but how much of it is valid? You see, we have to learn to think for ourselves, and that's exactly what this is about. You, well, whatever age it is that you become aware. I was really a late bloomer. I was yeah. See, I was almost 40, so. And the thing of it is that you have to understand that mind doesn't like change. It will listen to you in your joy of having a new idea, but it doesn't want to change. So you must be persistent. You must be consistent with the idea that you're trying to promote in your world of experiences, because it's all a virtual reality. It's as within, so without. And that's what Scripture tells you. It is all as within, so without. Everything is out of the mind of man. God produced it. It's imagination, and that's who God is in you. Take advantage of it. Listen to it. Feel after it, and you will find it. You're told, seek and you shall find. Not will, not maybe, not if it's your lucky day, but you shall find. So what are you looking for? That's the only question you need to ask yourself. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I appreciate that you said, listen, I was almost 40 years old when I began to understand these principles. I wasn't much younger myself when it started to click, because I had always been in some type of spiritual study, but it didn't click until later when it all started coming together. And my words are to encourage those who are out there that says, it's too late for me. It's not. You can be 99. If you get these principles at the age of 99 and begin utilizing them, you're not only going to impact your life, you're going to impact the lives of those around you. Would you agree?
Yes. And when would be a really good time when you're like 99? I mean, to sit down and be quiet. And that's the reason why you have this age thing, is because sooner or later your exuberance is going to kind of dwindle a little, and then you'll start relaxing more, and then it'll be easier for you to think productively rather than just randomly, because that's what you're experiencing, your random thinking. And if you stop it and change it, change your mind, change your world. And the first does the second. You don't need to make any effort on the second. You're to make up your mind, choose this day. And whatever else you're doing, whether it's a hobby or work or whatever, all of that will go on as long as you need it to, until you take charge. You're in charge. You understand? Like the woman I told you they called before, and I asked her, why are you listening to what upsets you? Yes, I hear that often. News you need to know. Is it really? I told her, I said, well, what are you going to do about that? Because, well, what do you mean am I going to do about it? I mean, you're going to sit there and worry about it? That's one more mindset added to the already tragic problem. So drop it. If it's not your business, move on. I mean, you're told think only on things that are lovely and of good report, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah, well, that doesn't sound like lovely and of good report. and that's the point. You are choosing. Aware or unaware, you're choosing. You're praying ceaselessly. That word, ceaselessly, really shocked me, because you think you're in control, but you're really not, unless you know what you're saying to yourself, suggesting to yourself. That's what you're doing. Change it and you change your world. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And going back to what you said about the news you need to know, that's a sales pitch. They want you to come back and listen and become a part of that mass mind reasoning. See, that's all a part of that preconditioned man. And if you want to stay there, then of course you keep listening to the news you need to know. But if the news is not taking you where you want to go, then you need to stop listening to that news you need to know, because you don't need to know that. Would you agree?
That's right. That's right. No, I agree 100%. As a matter of fact, I really still can't understand why the public doesn't rise up against this, the way they advertise every 5 minutes. I mean, come on. How if you were going to brainwash somebody that everybody was afraid of brainwashing, how would you start? Exactly like that, right?
Absolutely.
Repeat, over and over, and then they give you a little tune that goes with it, and sounds that you cannot distinguish anything going on other than what they're saying. But it adds to your acceptance, just unsuspectingly, really, because you don't realize you can accept it. All you have to do is just start whistling a little tune, and there you are.
You're like, I don't know why I can't get that tune out of my head.
Yeah, really, because you heard it so many times. That's it. Well, and over and over and over, and people were so worried about brainwashing. You remember back at I don't know, maybe you don't, but when they were brainwashing people, and everybody was worried about being brainwashed, and they're watching those commercials over and over and over.
A lot of that was taking place in the 70s and the 80s. You know, they were talking about, the Cold War and everything like that. So, of course, everyone was being preconditioned. At least that was the popular notion at that time.
Yeah. Oh, they sold us a lot of goods.
They did and still do. They've gotten better at it.
Oh, and that actually, I think we probably stumbled on it because we heard what was going on and we did a little thought on our own. But what about the new generations now? They're getting the brunt of what has happened without knowing what it was. You know what I mean?
I do. I do.
So it's like you really have to watch yourself. What you're thinking feelingly is more dangerous to you if it's negative than the robbers, thieves, murderers, all of them, because they can't get to you unless you get to you first by worrying. And that right there, that's a form of being afraid. And you're told, fear not. Why would you be told to fear not if there's fearful things here? And we certainly know there's fearful things here. But you're told that it won't come nigh you unless you buy in with it. That's why you're told to be in the world, but not of the world, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it's funny that you bring that up. I was talking to a lovely young lady the other day, and that was her biggest concern. She knew, because she listened to the talks and she listened to Neville and so forth, and she said, the biggest thing that I try to do is stay away from those things that I fear. But in staying away from the things you fear, you're still giving attention to the things that you fear. And I told her, I said, don't focus on your fear. Focus on the things that you want to manifest in your life. She said, well, DeCarlo, how do I do that? I said, sometimes when the fear rises up, begin to distort the picture or the image of the thing that you're fearing. Make it funny. Make it something laughable. Cause it to lose its power. And I told her that at one point when I used to drive, I still drive, but when I used to be on the road constantly, I had been in a couple of accidents, and at a point I got fearful of driving on the road. And the only way I overcame that was I became somebody else. I became the race car driver, Jeff Gordon. And so in my mind's eye, because I was Jeff Gordon on the road, I lost all fear. And we have to become someone else in order to overcome the things that held us in bondage. Would you agree?
Yes, and the thing of it is that you're already operating as someone else because you're not really the name that you're called by.
Absolutely.
See, so you're already opposed to yourself in another mood, and that's what it is. It's mood. We take to mind, and we don't know where we're going with them, and they're creative, positive or negative. They're creative. So don't think upon what you don't want to experience because that's exactly what you're to do. You're either setting yourself up or setting yourself free by those inner conversations. And if you'll listen to them and pay attention, you'll see where you've been leading you and where you can be leading you. And that's the whole idea of these talks, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And our goal, as we discuss so many times, is to keep it simple because, as Linda will often say, if we keep it simple, then perhaps you'll do it.
Yeah, maybe you'll remember it.
Absolutely.
See, that was the problem. I mean, the problem was, look, I read Neville's books, 50 years ago, and I'm still reading them. I listen to his tapes too, because I understand that he went the distance that we're all leading to, and he was telling you what the landscape was like and what you would experience. But listen to this now. Jesus tells you that these things I do, you shall do also. I mean, I can't understand someone hearing that and not just bringing a whole rush of questions. I mean, these things I do, you shall do also. And then he added, and even greater. So he's telling you that you're actually greater than the part he's playing as Son of God. You're actually God. I mean, you're told time and time again throughout the Scripture, but you have to be awake to understand it, to hear it. Don't you see? Isn't that it?
It is true. It is true. And being awake takes place as something Lindell said earlier in this talk, being aware.
That's it. Because what you're aware of, you're experiencing. And if you're not liking your experiencing, get busy and get aware of something else. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, many people ask the question, how can I do this? Just choose to. Be aware. But you said something also earlier, asking. Simply by asking the question, you're on your way to the thing that you desire. Would you agree?
That's it. Don't stop. If you can choose your next thing that you'll think about, do so. And then don't stop. Because then you're going. You're on your way. It's being built for you. Imagining is the creative of everything. So what are you imagining? Because what you're imagining is what you're going to be experiencing. It isn't falling into the past. See, now, if it was falling into the past, then you wouldn't be worried about it. But it isn't. It's now. I find that a lot of people don't realize that this day is the day. That it's always this day, and you're told, choose this day. Well, it's never a yesterday, and it's not a tomorrow. It's always this day. So you have the choice every day to change your mind, change your world. Now, the only question is, how wholehearted are you in your doing so? And that's the degree that you'll experience. So, you're looking for a better experience? Take a trip for yourself. See what you think it's like. And believe me, it's as you think you are, you do, you be, you have. And I remember how many times I said that to myself before I actually got the idea that I was actually talking about my experiencing my world every day. choose this day. And if you're not choosing, that's a fallacy, because you are choosing. Even if you're not choosing, that's a choice not to choose. So you still used your choice, didn't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you said something about it's always this day. And people, they hear it, but they miss it. And what they fail to understand is that at this present moment, this very present moment, they're creating their future now.
That's right. That's right. You're on all the time. You're on more even than the Energizer Bunny. You're operating the power. What are you doing with it? That's the question, isn't it? You're operating the power. You're given choose this day. Isn't that having the power? So,
it is.
So what are you doing with it? What are you choosing? What are you thinking about? If you're told it as you think you are, you'd think that the first thing you do is think of things lovely and of good report, wouldn't you?
You should.
See, we all know what to do. The thing of it is we're just lazy-minded. And I know that took me years to get the ideas that I'm trying to share with everybody right now, that it is what I'm doing in me is my world of experiencing on the without. And you can prove it to yourself. You don't need to take anybody's word for this, right? Isn't that right?
It absolutely is, yes.
I mean, you don't need to take DeCarlo's word for it or Lindell's word for it. You can experience it yourself. And this day, choose. You see, once you make up your mind that this is what you want, then you start being it by thinking as it's ongoing at the moment. What am I doing? What am I thinking? Feel yourself being that person that you desire to be. Not a question. You're not asking for it. You are it. That's the secret. The secret is that you already are it. You just didn't recognize it. What you have recognized is what you have been paying attention to, because what has your attention has your life. Isn't that the way it works?
That's exactly how it works. And I like that you said you're not requesting permission. You are it. You are that. You're the person that you're desiring to be. And when we begin to live that out, we bring about the manifestation of what it is that we desire. Would you agree?
Yes. And the thing of it is that you are already everything. You demoted yourself down to being human being. But he gave human being choice so that he could choose to be. And that's what you're about doing. You're choosing what you're to be, aware or unaware. All we're suggesting is that aware is much better, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I like that you said that we've demoted ourselves down to what we call human beings, the preconditioned man. But that's not who we truly are. Agree?
Right. That's what you're here to discover. That you're not this human being. That's what you're doing. That's what you're being. That's what you're entertaining yourself with. But you are, in essence, God. That's it. That's the essence of the whole message is as you think you are. So you straighten out as you think you are, and you've got it. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And there's only one God.
That's it. There's only one God. So, and he's giving you permission to do what it is you want to do. And that you can do it in peace, in harmony with everything. But you have to align yourself with that beautiful harmony with everything. It's you aligning you. It's what you're thinking and feeling that you're experiencing. It has nothing to do with anyone else around you. Nobody. I don't care if it's your wife, your kids, your relatives, or whatever. It's what you think you're experiencing. I can't think of another way to say it simple. But you're on all the time, and as you think you are. So if you would kind of sit and design a better life, a better thinking process, you'll have a better life, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and I like you use the word design, because we're the designers, we're the creators. Neville would often say the operant in power. Somebody had asked me recently, is thinking important when it comes to the body? I said, thinking is the only thing when it comes to the body. I said, body is thinking. Would you agree?
Of course. Look, everything goes away. Everything out of the mind of man goes away. But you don't.